Welcome to another episode of All About Design. Today we're talking about something that surrounds us every day, but we often take for granted, and that's colour. Colour has the power to energise us, calm us, comfort us, and influence how we behave without us even realising it sometimes. Today's guest is Karen Huller, a leading international authority on applied colour psychology, and that's the science of how colour affects us emotionally, mentally and physically, and how we can use it intentionally in the spaces we live and work in. She's the author of The Little Book of Colour and has worked across interiors, branding and design to help people harness colour as a powerful physiological tool rather than just a decorative afterthought. So today we're exploring what applied colour psychology really means for our homes and understanding how our own responses to colour can change the way we design the spaces we live in. So welcome, Karen. Thank you so much for coming onto the podcast today. When I read your book, it was a real eureka moment for me. I've been searching for more understanding about my reactions to colour for a long time. So thank you so much for putting that book out there. It was amazing. First question, for listeners who are new to the idea, what exactly is applied colour psychology and how is it different from traditional colour theory?
Yes. Well, first of all, thank you very much for inviting me. I was thrilled when I received your email, so thank you. And I'm glad. I'm really pleased that you love the book and that you had a eureka moment, because I get this a lot. It's been a number of years now since the book's come out, and I still get almost on a daily basis that people say the impact that it's had, because colour is really within us. It's just something that we maybe consciously aren't aware of. And then that book taps into something that lies deep within us. And it's that subconscious awakening. That's why we get that eureka moment. I got a eureka moment too when I realised it's colour that really is what drives me and really what I want to focus on. So back to your question, the difference between applied colour psychology and traditional colour wheel theory is that the traditional colour wheel theory focuses on the mechanics of colour, so how colours sit next to each other on the colour wheel. But what that doesn't do, it doesn't tell you how someone is going to feel, how it affects their mood, their feelings, their energy, their behavior. It doesn't go into that level. And that's what applied colour psychology does. And you said it very nicely in your intro. It affects us as human beings. It affects us on a emotional level, on a mental level, physically. And we see that through our responses. So we don't see it in a mood or a feeling. We see it in our behavior. And that's what my focus is on, is how to use colour that can influence our behavior in a positive way for positive good and positive change. And this podcast is about the homes, but it's on all areas of our life. It's the clothes we wear, home, in the workplace, on branding, on products, in hotels, which I know was your former interior design life. If it has colour, which we can see everything has colour, it will be having an impact and an effect on us. And that's the area that I then work in.
How does it manifest in everyday life, how we feel or behave without us even realising it? What does it actually do to us?
So without getting too sciencey, when we're taking in light, colour is wavelengths of light. It's the way that those different wavelengths of light, that frequency, when it comes into our brain, it's the impact that it has. So colour is first of all something visual. But once we see it, once it then goes through our brain to the hypothalamus and then into our body, because of the wavelengths, we then have quite distinct reactions to it. So, for instance, red affects us on a physical level. So red is energizing physically. It can agitate us. We can feel annoyed. It's all around the physical. Blue is around to do with the mind. So a light blue is mentally soothing and a darker blue is mentally stimulating. So colours will have these properties based on their wavelengths of light, and we then have these reactions to it within the theory of colour psychology.
I found it interesting reading your book that you were previously in the world of IT and every day wore black. working in quite a sort of grey environment, and your moment was when you were pinning, was it some blue feathers onto a brown hat, and you were like, "Oh my goodness, it had such an effect." Is that when you changed your pathway and started all the work that you
Yeah,
do?
so was working in IT. This is the interesting thing. We will show up how we feel that we need to in whatever situation. Because I was an IT project manager for 30 men,
Mm.
for me to turn up in bright, fun, happy colors, no one told me this. I made the decision that they wouldn't take me seriously.
Yeah.
So I decided that I had to wear black in order to be taken serious. And that wasn't me. So I was actually pushing my own personality down and I was hiding behind that because I
Yeah.
wanted to be taken seriously. As I was working IT during the day, at night was when I was studying, and I studied fashion design, and then I moved
Okay.
on to millinery and actually had made a blue felt hat.
Oh, I've got it the other
with
way around.
Yeah, so a teal blue felt hat with chocolate brown feathers. And
Right.
that was my first epiphany moment where I said out loud in the class, "Oh my God, it's color."
Yeah.
And when everyone said, "What do you mean?" I remember going, "I don't know." But it's one of those sliding door moments that I decided to then investigate and look at what it was about color. I had enrolled in a year's color and design course. And again, this was in the evening, but it was a year on the color wheel. And
Right.
I was thinking, there's got to be more to this. It
Mm.
can't, it can't just be how colors are placed around a wheel.
Mm.
Because when Isaac Newton put together the color wheel, 7 was a very auspicious number. So there's 7 planets,
Yeah.
7 wonders of the world. Was it was a very it was the fashion at the time. So he
Right.
picked the 7 colors, but there are so many more. And I just thought it can't just be that this color looks good with sits next to this color, so therefore that's the color scheme. There's got to be more to that, because why is it that I like this yellow, but
Mm.
my fellow student in the course doesn't? Why did I
Mm.
like this green yesterday, but I don't like it today? All these questions were coming up that my teacher couldn't answer, and understandably, because she was teaching the color wheel. So that's when I went on this big quest, which I didn't realize it was going to take me a year. I did every color course I could get my hands on, every
Yeah.
weekend workshop. And whenever I started asking these questions, they could maybe answer one or two, but as I kept on asking more and more, it just didn't add up. And I'm like, there's something here that is
Yeah.
just being left unanswered. And I am quite tenacious, like a dog with a bone. I just really need to understand, because I'm just
Yeah.
insatiably curious. So all of that was happening in Australia. And then it wasn't until I moved to the UK and my upteenth colour workshop, because I thought, oh, well, may as well go on this one. And then the teacher could answer the question, and she could answer and I just went, and that was my second epiphany moment. I was like, oh my
Yeah.
God, it's called color
Yeah.
psychology. So then I went on, and that's the late Angela Wright. So I went and studied under her color and design psychology, and then color harmony. So I've taken those principles, her theory, and then I have built on that. So I've built my
Yeah.
own frameworks. I've taken it a lot further. And just to say that everything that I then do, all of my work, the work that I do for my clients, the courses that I have for my design students, everything is based on nature. So it's
Yeah.
not something that I have made up. It's looking at how true nature, not what we've done to nature, because we're messing nature around a bit, but it was as nature intended. And
Yeah.
then I build all of my all my work is
Yeah.
based on that. So it's biophilic, but much further, because
Yeah.
biophilic doesn't go into color and design psychology. It talks about putting nature in interiors, but it doesn't then bring in the human.
Mm.
So
Mm.
I look at human because it's our human nature in relation to nature, and then how we live in harmony with nature, within ourselves and within our space.
So it's quite a journey, a long
Yes.
journey.
Yeah, it's very long, and it's not over.
No.
I know that I'm going to be learning for the rest of my life, and I hope so, because I love
Yeah.
it.
I think that's a good place to be, isn't it? And any walk of life, you can never say, I know everything, and why would you want to?
Yeah, a lot of people do. I think the fear of saying they might not know something. I learn from my clients all the time. I learn from my
Mm,
students. I learn from nature. I learn from society. And
mm.
we're always evolving and changing. We're not static. So our work doesn't stay static. So I'm always coming up with new theories and then I'm testing them with
Yeah.
my clients to see if they're robust. And then I know that I have something quite solid. And that's when I go and teach that to my design
Yeah.
students.
I've always felt nature was our big lead quite often with interiors. So if you've got doubt in your mind about, oh, can I put that colour and that colour together? Look at nature because it will show
Mm.
you the way. So my next question is, why do some people think they're bad with colour? And is that about colour or confidence?
Well, I think it's definitely to do with confidence. But if we just go back a step, when we think about our relationship to colour as children, we loved colour. I remember as a child, well, yes, I had pencils, but I really wanted to get my fingers in the paint pot.
Yeah.
And the messier, the better. And it's which color do I pick? And we just did it very naturally. There was no judgment. And if we had a green sun and yellow
Yeah.
grass, it was all about experimenting. It was about creating our own world. It was just pure joy and pleasure and fun. And then something starts to change. And normally what that is that someone is telling us our choices are wrong. So it's not uncommon to hear that some will say, oh, you can't go out in that. You can't wear that. That looks ridiculous together. Or as you get older, that's dated, or that was last year's color. And when we hear it enough, one thing it does to us is that we no longer trust ourselves. And so we doubt ourselves. And you hear it enough, that's one of the biggest ways we lose confidence. And for some reason, we feel that what somebody else says is correct and what we think and feel isn't. One of the big reasons that is because of something that is pretty much ingrained in us from our ancestors from caveman time, is that if we are ostracized from our group, when we don't belong and we're pushed out, back then it meant certain death. Because you're on your own, you don't have your tribe, you don't have your clan, you don't have your group to protect you. That meant that you were outcast. And we still have that in our brain. We still have that memory. And for a lot of us, not everyone, because there'll be people watching this podcast or listening that will say, oh, that's not me. I do what I want. I don't care what anyone else thinks. Fantastic. Great.
Yeah.
But for the majority of people, they will worry and they will go, hey, then I'm not going to use this color. And they don't know this consciously, but subconsciously is, I want to fit in, I want to belong. We have a very, very strong need to belong. And psychology does play on this. We see this in other parts of our life, in other areas, whereas if you don't have this, you're not with us. You're not a part of the group. So that has a really big impact on why we pick color or why we don't. And I think that's why grey had a really long run, especially in the UK, because people wanted to fit in and belong. And so the grey was the trend, because as soon as grey started waning and there was a lot of talk that we're out with the grey, spoke to a lot of people with their homes.
Yeah.
And they said, I never really liked grey anyhow. I always found it draining, or I didn't like it. And I thought, well, why did you use it? Oh, because it was on trend, because everyone had it.
Following the herd.
We
Yeah.
do follow the herd in a lot of areas of our life. So it does take courage to be clear on your own convictions and what you stand for.
Yeah.
And be okay with that and know that there will be people that won't agree. And really, quite frankly, it doesn't matter what you choose and what you do, there's always going to be people who don't agree.
Yeah.
So why not do what you want to do? Because someone's not going to agree anyway. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah. I think you're completely right. It's fascinating. There's always someone who'll criticise, and sometimes maybe it comes with age when you start to think, I know that I'm not going to please everyone, but I'm pleasing me. So let's do that.
Yeah, and coming with age, it's because by that time we're freaking tired and exhausted, right? So why not just do it when you're younger? Why not? So I wear the colors that suit me. I have the colors in my home that are my colors. And I get people saying to me, oh, they're very childish. They're very sickly sweet colors. I could never wear what you wear. I could never live in those colors. And I just go, great, because they're not for you. Like, you're not me and you don't live in my place. So I wouldn't expect you to like them. But if you know what you don't like, that is not your color palette and these aren't your colors, then fantastic. Because what you've just said is, I know that's not me. That's not the true, authentic me. So therefore, you're one step closer to knowing what is. So when they say, I don't like those colors, really what they're saying is, I don't like those colors for me. They're projecting themselves onto you about themselves. So that happens a lot with color, because color is emotion. So we are having an emotional reaction response to color all the time. But this is what happens when somebody walks into your home. Did you pick that color? I could never live here. Don't take it personally. It's all about them. You just say, great, because you don't live here. I live here. And I have not created my home for you to like, because once you've left, I'm still living here. Many years ago, I did a big survey in the UK that I did with a big home brand, and the results that we got back was that 75% of people in the UK said that they decorate their homes for others to like it. So I've decorated it so anyone that walks in will say they like it, because what they are really wanting is that if you like my home, that means you like me and you are validating me. But if you walk in and go, I don't like your home, and your home is an expression of you, then what we can sometimes think is they don't like me because this is who I am. But this is where you need to separate it and just know that when they say, I don't like it, it's like, I don't like it for me. Because it's not me. And 10 people can walk in and say they love it. And then your Auntie May walks in and goes, oh. And then all of a sudden you think, my God, there's something wrong. We always go to the negative. It's the one person that didn't like it. But if we don't worry what anybody thinks, and just go, you don't have to like it because you don't live here. Isn't that a relief? The relief is you can go home to your house.
Well, that's it. Your home is your place for self-care and for relaxation. Your home is your sanctuary. It's got to be decorated for you, hasn't it? So if someone is in that 75% of people who've decorated for others and not for themselves, how should they begin choosing colour that is reflecting themselves?
So when I'm doing a consultation for someone for their home, the first rule is I don't talk about colour, because as soon as you bring out the colour chips, the colour Fandex, you've lost them. Because I like that colour. Oh, I don't like that. Oh, that colour reminds me. You've lost them. So I actually don't talk about colour. And when I say colour, I should say colour and design, because I look at the person, their personality, but from a colour and design psychology perspective, because you can't have colour on something without it being a thing. Texture, smooth, is it glossy? So even though this podcast is on colour, if the listener also knows that colour and design psychology, it's interlinked. You can't separate these two things.
No.
And I will ask them questions that have nothing to do with colour and design, because I want to start with the person. I ask them questions about themselves and who they are, what they like doing, how they spend their time. I'm not putting my book down, but there is only 11 questions in here, and I actually didn't want the questions in here, because when I ask questions, I ask about 20, if not more. This is a fun quiz. But really, we have two personalities, and it's further in the book. We work out what our two are, but further in the book is when I talk about then the colour draping, about then how to work out which is your primary personality. It will make sense for anyone that's read the book. But, just to do the quiz and go, oh, I've come out as this, that's only step one. There is more to do. So I usually ask 20, 30 questions, nothing to do with colour and design, because that way I get more of the authentic person. And I also make sure they don't answer in a way that they think that's aspirational.
Mm.
And I can tell by their physiology, I can tell by the way they answer, whether they're answering in a way of how they want to be seen or how they want people to see them or who they aspire to be. Because what I'm looking for is the authentic person. Because for me, there is no judgment. Absolutely no judgment, because the biggest joy this gives me is who they truly are. Because if we then bring that out in color and design, it is a true expression of them.
Mm.
And they then truly have a home, like you're saying, a sanctuary, a place that nurtures them.
Yeah.
And it's not about shutting yourself off from the outside world. It is about what is it that you need. And some people do need soft, gentle, soothing colors. Other people, what is good for them, the more bolder or the brighter colors. But really, ideally, what you want to do is get a mix of the two. Because if someone's home is always on, and this is not bashing at all, but as an example, maximalist homes are always on. There is no respite.
Yeah.
There is nowhere to relax because the colors are all saturated and the pattern is
Yeah, they're like,
to the max. So it's like you've got the radio on, full belt. And then what they sometimes do is they'll put a whole lot of white in somewhere. And this is a new phenomenon because this is the pause. White is the antithesis. White is like turning the music off, because one of the effects of white psychologically, you're anesthetizing yourself. You are turning your emotions off and you're desensitizing and you're not feeling. So imagine your body is going from 0 to 1,000 from room to room. And this isn't good on our physiology. It's not good on our mental health. It's not good and it's not a natural way to live, because you're not living in harmony with yourself and you're forcing it. So when I do this for a person, and I also do this for families, I do this for couples, because it's then how you work in the different personalities. But it's based on what behaviors that you want to have in a particular space, and then what colors and design style of your personality with the saturation, the proportion, everything, how to create that gives you what you need in that space. Because we can't see a mood and we can't see a feeling, and don't know what mood you're in. I don't know how you're feeling. I can only tell by your reaction, your response, your behavior. And no one else works this way. So I work really from behaviors backwards. It's only then that the colors come out, because then it makes sense. And I can explain to them, because of the framework I've used and the analysis that I've gone through, why it's this color palette, why it's these colors, why it's this saturation, why it's this combination, why it's this proportion, in conjunction then with the design style, why I've put this together and what this means about them as a person.
In the early part of the book, talking about 4 seasons, spring, summer, autumn, winter, is the way that a lot of people understand how their colour grouping might go. And yours goes a lot deeper than that. You have a primary colour that you like or season that you belong to, and then a secondary one. And I thought that was really interesting, how combining that in a family is so important, because you could spend a lot of money on something and just done what you want, and quite often somebody in the family go, oh, I don't really care, you just do it, and then they'll go, don't like that. So to take that moment, well, it's quite a lot of thought and deep thinking, but will save you so much time and create that harmonious space.
Yeah, even though people say, oh, I don't care, do what you want, they're being excluded. And there will be a reason why they've said that. And that's what I do. I look to the reason why they have said, you just do what you want.
Okay.
There will be a reason why. Sometimes it's a confidence thing. Sometimes it's, what do I know about design? Or sometimes it's just easier because they they feel that there might be a disagreement. But it's, without it turning into therapy, I always find it important just to get a bit of like an insight, because quite often the person that says, I don't care, you can do what you want, is the person who is the money holder.
Yes.
And if they're the ones that control the budget, or they're the ones that sign the check, and they say, I don't care, at some point they do. At some point they do. And I want to take them through, because people need to understand this on an emotional level and the effect it's having on them, but their logical and rationale mind needs to understand it as well. So I bring in these two parts so that our emotional self gets it. That's our intuition, our gut feeling, whatever that response, that internal response that you have. And then the logical mind, the rationale, needs to get it as well. So I bring that together. But yeah, I've done enough work on homes and families and couples to also know that if you don't want to get involved, but what's your role in this? And if it is that you are the one that signs off on the budget, you'll want to be involved, because at some point down the track, if you're not, that's when it all starts to unravel. And at the beginning, doing the work, you think, oh gosh, this is great, because now I only have to deal with one person. Well, the other person's that's coming.
Yeah.
And then you have to go back over everything that you've done. And what you don't want to do is you don't want to make changes.
Yeah.
You don't want to, because that means all your deductions, all of your analysis, everything that you've put together, you have to start again. And that has happened to me. Yeah. Enough times for me to go, no.
I've had that happen quite often. I'm dealing with, a couple. The children generally aren't really consulted if you're doing a family home, but of the husband and wife, the wife will usually meet with me more often. And I'm not being stereotypical, but that's just how it is, my experience.
Yeah.
And we go down a pathway together, and it's like, this is it. I love it. This is wonderful. And then things go quiet, because obviously then the husband has seen it and gone, oh, maybe I can't live with that wallpaper. It's a bit too this, or don't like that blue. And suddenly many hours of work are undone. Can I ask you some of the positive and negative psychological traits of colour that you're aware of from your work? I was reading something about a pink prison cell in your book.
Yes, so the pink prisons. So it's a really good example in many ways. Pink is the lighter shade of red. Red is physically stimulating, and so it motivates us. We think that red cars go faster because the red wavelength of light comes towards us quicker than any other.
Right.
So we see red advancing towards us quicker, so we think red is quicker and faster. Pink is light red. It just happens to have its own name. So if red is physically stimulating, a soft pink is physically soothing. So the experiment was that if you put soft pink into a holding cell for prisoners when they first come in, they're very agitated, right? So you could say that their body language was red because they're physically agitated. They go into a holding cell, and that's only meant to be about 10 minutes. They painted that soft pink. The idea is that it lessens their agitation because the pink is physically soothing. And just to say on a side, they would put pink into the locker room of college football teams. They would put it into the opposition. The idea was that they would be physically soothed. The idea was to lower the testosterone so that when they came out on the field, they were relaxed, right? So that was a little trick, that they were doing. So anyhow, back to the holding cell. So these holding cells are meant to be 10 minutes. And when someone comes in agitated and then there is pink in that room, the idea is that it is to physically soothe them so that they are easier to manage and then to process.
Yeah.
That works because the context, the reasoning behind it, the length of time, the whole premise of that works. So this is a very good example of what happens in people's homes all of the time. And it's something that I talk about, because what ends up happening is they make the colour wrong. And I've seen loads of people have a lot of colour in their house, and it's something that I am looking to see what's going to happen with this maximalist trend, because a lot of people are doing maximalist for whatever their reason is. At some point, they might find it too much and too overwhelming. And so they might then go and paint their house beige or white or something, because what they're doing is
they need a breather.
Well, they're neutralizing, as in neutralizing the emotion. Neutralizing is not like neutral, you've just gone and decimated all the emotions. It's all gone. So quite often what I've seen people misunderstand a color and then they will put a lot in. Then they wonder why all of a sudden it doesn't feel right. They may have felt the positive psychological traits before, and now what they're feeling is overwhelmed and it's tipped into the negative. And this happens a lot. Understanding and knowing the nuance and the difference. I will say the book is a really good place to start, but that's the difference between the book and then someone like me who knows that difference and knows the nuance and when it is likely to tip. But having gone through a thorough analysis and then saying, I can understand. So like orange, you know, and the marigold orange is my favorite color. Just because it's my favorite color doesn't mean it goes everywhere. Because if I put that everywhere, I would go into complete overwhelm because you have to peel me off the ceiling, right? Because I'm already have quite a lively Tigger kind of energy and personality. And if I put a lot of that color in, then I would skyrocket.
Too much.
But by the same token, it's not like, well, if you're very Tigger and you're very lively, we need to give you a color that desensitizes and pushes that down. That's also not the right thing because it's not supporting. It's using color then to manipulate. It's not using color to influence you in a positive way and in a way that is supportive, which back to your word of sanctuary, which my word is nurturing, is that it's this balance.
Yeah. Well, it's proportion, isn't it, as well? So it's using it in proportion, which is a skill in a way. Or a bit, and you can try another bit and then you'll hit it right.
The homeowner, it's just bringing it in little bit by bit. It's not going crazy with this one color. It's like when you buy a family box of chocolates. Do you just have one because that's enough? Or do you eat the whole thing and then you feel sick because you've had too much? It's knowing when it's enough, and it's bringing it in slowly and gently, living with it, feeling it, and then do I want some more? And I think the more you become in tune with how you feel in response to the colors, and it's just reawakening this what we all intuitive and instinctively have, and having the courage and the confidence. And because we really have stopped listening to ourselves, just in general. We wait for the magazines to tell us what to do. We wait for the trend forecasters to tell us, instead of just going, okay, that's all information, but what feels right for me?
When I'm doing my design process, I say to people, I'm not going to be offended if I put things in front of you and you tell me you don't like them, because then we've got a decision. Also very strongly into what you wear.
Oh, cool. It's what color in my color family, color palette, gives me that feeling but will support me in a positive way. Because if I wear black, it's not supporting, which is why then a lot of women wear then something very, very bright, because really what they're doing is they're trying to counteract what the black is doing.
Yeah.
So if it's a day that I just feel I want to hibernate, or I don't necessarily go to grey, what color will support me positively? Whereas the worst thing is to wear something bright to try and pull yourself out of it, because that's too hard and too quick and too fast. What do I have that would support me positively, that still gives me what I need? Color it's just unbelievably endlessly fascinating. And so when people say to me quite often, and it is normally the design industry, oh, color's just subjective, as a kind of a comment to shut the conversation, I just go, well, actually it's not. There is always a reason why we are reacting to a color or have a response to it. And that's what I do, is that I'm able to know what questions to ask and to have the conversation to then uncover what that is.
Yeah. And you've seen colour introduction in people's homes that's really changed their lives, I imagine.
Oh, absolutely life-changing. It's almost like they feel that they've been given permission to be who they are. And I tell you what, in this day and age and what's going on in the world, I mean, the best self-care that we could do for ourselves is to live authentically us.
Changing tack slightly in the workspace, what colours work really well? You know, if you've got 10 people in an office, they're all going to have a different physiological reaction to colour. What's a good workspace scheme, do you think?
So it's not to do with the color schemes. It's what are the behaviors that you want to see in this space, in this context, in this function? What are they doing? And then creating that environment. But it needs to be in the collective whole, because quite often what becomes very tricky is because offices then are open plan. So it's the design style that goes with that, because whatever is created, what it is doing is in the home exactly the same. It is influencing those behaviors in a subconscious way. So I remember seeing school that had a red corridor and all the floor was red and the lockers were all red. And and this is again where color is misunderstood. Whoever chose those colors would have been, we don't want them to linger. We want them to move through quickly, which is one of the things that you want. But again, the red was a very aggressive, it was a very, very strong, bright red, because there are many reds. So they picked a cold blue red, not a soft, warm red. There's many nuances to color. So everything was this one red. So what did the kids do? The color was influencing the children's behavior. The children were not doing anything wrong. They were doing what the color kind of was telling it to do. They were talking loudly. They were running. They were bashing their lockers. And then they were saying that the children were misbehaving. The children weren't misbehaving. The color was giving them the permission to do it. Don't give it to them and then tell the person they're wrong. You can't put someone in a library and make it yellow and red and orange, which are all very activating colors, because that's not telling you to whisper. So I'm coming into the library now and having a party. But you're wrong because you're not quiet. And yet the colors are going, no, let's have a party.
Yeah.
It's understanding. And that's why color psychology is, we don't just look at color in isolation of that one color. It's all the colors. Is what is it all saying in this context? You know, in the proportion, in the nuance of it. Is it a cool blue or is it a warm blue? Because we just think, again, the color wheel. And that's the other kind of difference with the color wheel. It implies or suggests that every green, blue, and purple is cold, and every orange, yellow, and red is warm. And yet it isn't, because there are cool and warm versions of both. There are soothing and stimulating of both. There are colors that have very bright. So you get a turquoise to a soft sky blue to a dusty blue to a teal to a navy blue to a midnight blue. All of those, different response. And yet they're all blue, and yet they're all completely different. And then it is how you put the colors together, because if the colors aren't from the same color family, so there could be the right colors, but they're not the right color family, then you have a disharmony. And it's like when you hear music and the note is off and you really feel it.
I read that in your book and I thought that's such a good way of describing it.
And it's my job when I see color palettes put together is that I know I can see the note that's off. So quite often we can feel something is off. Like we'll walk into a cafe and we'll go, doesn't feel right here. Or we will pick up a dress or a cushion, and there will be something in there that doesn't feel right. I see disharmony in products all of the time. When I'm out shopping, I look for things to take photos to send to my students to say, perfect example of color harmony. It's very hard to find because there will usually be 2 or 3 color groups within the same pattern, within the same design, within the same color scheme that makes that then go off. And one of my skills is that I can see what that is, whether there's too many design styles, because it just turns into a mess. Quite often what product designers, brands do, they try and be everything to everyone, so they throw everything in. But if we know who we are and we know what we like and we know what suits us and we know what we resonate to, because as human beings, we're always calibrating for harmony. If we can't calibrate it, we normally put it down or we walk away or we walk out because we can't understand it.
Mm.
Things need to make sense to us. So it's not just about beautiful design. It needs to actually make sense because we need to relate to it much deeper.
Yeah, it is. It's just such a massive subject. Simplify it by taking the quiz and some reflection of your own, being aware of what you react to and what you walk away from.
Yeah, it may not give you all the answers, but the book is a good start because, like what you said, it did for you, an epiphany moment. These feelings and thoughts are in there. This book, from the feedback I get, is that it wakens that dormant
Yeah, it sort of
thought and go,
answers them.
I always felt this, I just didn't know how to say it. I didn't
Yeah.
know how to express it. And quite often people say, now I get it. And now I've been able to put into words something I've always just felt.
And particularly about your home, if people are sometimes worried that if they do put stronger colours into their home, it's going to detract from the value if they then come to sell it. What would you say on that?
So it's not necessarily about being stronger colors. So the psychology of getting a house ready for sale is different. So the idea is that people are buying space, but they're also, when they walk into a home for sale, they want to be able to see themselves in there.
Yeah.
So if it's heavily personalized, what people tend to do when they walk in, they can't see past it because all they're seeing is the color. And what a lot of people will do is, oh, I can't live with that color. They don't think, let me look at the bones of it. Let me look at the space. Is there enough storage? Is there what I need? Because, for instance, I don't like that blue, right? So they might walk in here and go, can't stand that blue. That sometimes is enough for them to go, well, I'm not going to live here. Instead of going, well, everything else is what I need. I can change that, but they don't. So because they're already gone down the emotional rabbit warren, they're emotionally hooked in and what that color means to them and what it triggers in them. And it could be a psychological adverse reaction, like a bad memory for them. And because we're taking color before anything else, they are already in that emotional state and almost don't see anything else.
What could people do? So obviously they need to represent themselves and their home and the colours, but then if they come to sell it,
I think the big challenge that people have, people move in and they know they're going to be there for 10 years, 15 years, but they already paint their house as if they're going to sell it. So why not create the home that you want to live in because you are living there? Is it in 5 years that you might repaint anyhow?
5
Or
to
in
7.
Yeah,
Yeah.
5 to 7. So when you know that you're ready to sell it, just put it on the market as it is. If it sells, it sells. If it doesn't, then you might want to look at, how do I reduce the intensity of the color? How do I maybe put something in that's softer or paler so that people can see themselves in the home? If you have a good estate agent, they will say, people are saying, oh, I can't stand the colors. And the estate agent should be saying, look past that. Look at what the place has to offer. There is a service that's called home staging, where there are people that will get your home ready for sale. And what they do is remove a lot of
Yeah.
personality. So all your family photos, they will look at putting in much softer colors. And I do not use the word neutral because there's no such thing as a neutral color, because we are always having an emotional reaction regardless. But what the softer colors do is they don't ask a lot of us emotionally, and they don't
Yeah.
hook us in which feeds back to what we've said earlier. That kind of breaks my heart, that people live in their homes as if they're going to sell, even though they've not got the house on sale.
I completely agree. And that's why I asked, because I think it's being aware that you might need to put a lick of paint on if you have a magenta wall, if that's what you love, and being aware that's a colour that's quite divisive to some people. Being aware that live for yourself, live for your emotions and your sanctuary, and then think about it when you put it on the market.
And when you're ready to sell, because I know somebody who had a very, very brightly coloured house, but But the people who bought it absolutely loved it because that was them. And they said,
Yeah.
we're going to keep it because we want that. Yeah. So there was just someone, the right person came and had a look. I am pretty sure I read, it was a few years ago, that Lawrence Llewellyn Bowen ended up painting his place white.
Yeah.
Because it wasn't selling, because his place was very brightly coloured, loads of pattern,
I
lots
can
of
imagine.
wallpaper. And it was wonderful because him and his wife, it was the
Yeah.
expression of them.
Yeah.
I'm quite sure that it was on for sale, but it wasn't selling, and then they neutralised it.
Someone can come and put their take on it, which is
Their stamp
absolutely
on it.
fine.
But then a lot of people then just leave it white because then they don't
No.
have the confidence, and then there's that whole spiral again.
Yeah.
Well, if it's white, no one can judge me. And if you have those thoughts, okay, I need to really work on my confidence and know that it doesn't matter. Like what we said earlier, it doesn't matter what anyone else thinks. The only person who has to love your home is you.
So last question. If someone could understand only one thing about colour and life, what would it be?
Wow. I think it's probably what I've been saying all the way through is about create something that you love. So create a home that you love and a home that loves you back. Use colour that you love, that works for you, that resonates with you, not based on anyone else's judgment or what other people think. Colour is a form of self-expression where we don't have to say a word. In fact, colour was our way of signalling before we could speak. And in nature, they still signal across species in colour. So it is an amazing way of self-expression.
Yeah.
So you don't have to say anything. The colours are doing the talking. And it's not about, well, if I love colour, I have to wear all the bright colours. There's a quote or line in my book where I say something like, we are all colourful, even the most subtle of us. So if you are a person who loves very soft, very subtle colours because you have a very soft, very gentle nature, then that is perfect for you and that is your personality. Don't have anyone try and jazz you up. I remember I did have a client whose husband said, I've got a very quiet wife. Can you liven her up? And I went,
Gosh.
no.
How horrible.
Like, I'll do a consultation and she is what she is. Right. I do the personal colour consultations as well. Like 3 hours, they're very in depth. And at the end, I said to her husband, you're not going to be happy with this, but this is your wife. But she's no pushover. She's just very soft, very quiet. Her energy isn't external. It's very internal. I said, but she absolutely knows who she is, but she's just very quiet with it. This is the palette and these are the colours that express her. And I said, because if you want me to make her something that you want her to be, I'm not doing that. Because that's unethical.
Yeah. I did my colours recently. I'm autumn, but there's still some colours in here that don't pop for me.
It's not an autumn palette. They call it seasons, but it's not. All the colours aren't in the nature's seasons. So I guess that's another thing to say, is that there is nature seasons and the colours as nature intended. And that's how I work, as in the colours that actually turn up in that true season. There are colour styling houses and there are places that talk about nature and will talk about the seasons, but the colours that are in there aren't the colours that appear in nature in that season. The similarity is just the word, spring, summer, autumn, winter. What I use and everything that I refer back to and my guide is Mother Nature and nature itself. So it's nothing that I've made up. I want to be able to have Mother Nature as my guide. Imagine if we didn't have her.
I know. That's a great thing to end on, because I totally agree with that. As I say, if you question a colour scheme, just look at it in nature.
It's true nature as nature intended.
Thank you so much for your time today, Karen.
My pleasure.
It's been fascinating. I put all of your details on the show notes. Karen very kindly offers a free ebook for designers and also the first chapter of her book for free. So I'll put all the links to that in the show notes as well. And you can follow Karen on Instagram at Karen_Huller_colour. The Little Book of Colour is published by Penguin and is available everywhere. I'll be back in 2 weeks' time talking all about design. If you have any questions, please do send them in to contact@allaboutdesign.online. See you soon.